Hi guys and welcome back. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to cut mason's mitres. Enjoy. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is take a look and familiarise ourselves with our jig. Now this is my jig, it's a unique jig, if you can see that in there, made in England, really good, moderately fairly priced one. These are about £40, £50 in the UK. Yeah, just a decent jig. Stay away from the MDF ones, they don't last 5 minutes. You want one of these like full mitre type ones, pretty solid. So what we need to do first is establish what way round we're going to use this jig and how to use one of these jigs. So if you look over here, you'll see we've got numbers 600, 616 and 620. Now they're standard worktop sizes. You can get other sizes, but they're primarily the standard ones that we're going to work with. For today's demonstration, we're going to be using the 600 for everything. Now you can see you have got 500, 400 and 300 on there as well, and they're for your breakfast bar types or if you cut a worktop down. But for today, we're going to be using 600. 600 and 620 are generally the standard ones. Don't hold me to that. Check all your bits of worktop, you know, put tape measure from front to back, but we're going to be doing 600. So what you've got is you've got male and female sides on here. So you'll see on these holes here, we've got female on here, or F for female, and that's going to be the bit of worktop that receives the cut. On the other side, if we flip it over, you'll see down here, we've got an M for male. So this is telling us where we need to put our pins depending on what we're going to be doing. Now we're going to be turning our attention to this bit of worktop that I've got in place here. So I'm going to flip you around and we're going to show you how to set this onto this. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be working on this. Now this is actually a 900 deep bit of breakfast bar. We're going to ignore that for a minute. We're going to treat this as a standard bit of worktop, because it's not going to make a blind bit of difference whether this is 900 deep or 600 bit of deep, because we're going to be working on this corner here. So it's going to be 600 deep for everything. So what you want to do is when you introduce your router into it, you always want to be going in the clockwise direction for where your router's going. So we want to put a female in. Now with my jig, it will only let you put it in a certain way. If you can see in there, it's recessed, and that's to take the head of this when it's in that direction, so it sits flush. It won't let you put it in the wrong way, but some jigs will, so you need to pay attention to that. So we're going to be putting it in from that side. We need to route in this direction, so we actually need to turn this bit of worktop over and route from the other side. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll show you how to set it up. Okay, so now we've got our bit of worktop set round, it's time to actually set up our jig for what we want to do. So this is going to be receiving the female end, which you'll see, because the other bit of worktop's going to be going into that. So the other bit's going to be the male. So to set this up, what we want to do is put our pin into the 600. Now, you'll have to excuse me because these ain't the right pegs for this jig, so I have to use a hammer to put them in. Normally you shouldn't need to do that. And then what we want to do is put pegs into our female section, the one marked with the F. I'll just get another one for over there. Okay, so here's our last one. So yes, the other one goes into this section here, as you can see. So anywhere with an F on it for this one. Okay, so that's where our pegs need to go to set this up. And now what you want to do is when you set your jig on, you want to make sure that you're referencing on all three of these pegs. That's really important, because if it's not, if it's sitting slightly like this, your joint's not going to come together very well. So what you want to do is put your jig on and make sure you push them two pegs in like that, really push them in, and then push down on there. So you make sure that all three of these are in the right place, and then you can clamp on and we'll do our cut with our router, which I'll take you outside to do. We're not going to do it in here. Okay, so as you can see, we've moved outside now. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our jig up again. So like I said, make sure pegs are pushed up and in all directions. Make sure all of those pegs are touching, and then clamp it on. Now you really do want to use a decent set of clamps, not necessarily these are quite expensive, but a decent set of clamps for this, because you don't want this jig moving as you do it. One there and one there. And also it's important to try and get these clamps, you can see mine's hanging over the edge a little bit, and that's because I know for a fact that my router will bind with that as we go. You don't want to be moving clamps as you're routing, because then you run the risk of slipping of this slipping. So you really don't want to do that. You want these out the way enough, and I know for a fact that that is enough for my router to clear. Now before we go ahead, we're just going to do one more double check, make sure all of those pegs are touching, which they are, and we can go ahead and route it. Now don't try and route this in one go, don't even do it in 3 goes, try and do this maybe in about 5 passes. You really don't want to put a lot of strain on your router and these cutters. You really want to take your time with it and just take it in nice slow passes as you go through. The important thing to remember is the cutter's moving in that direction, so it's going to break out everything on its outward cut. So that's why we've got this bit of worktop upside down, and when we come to do the mount on the other side, you'll see that it's the other way up, just so it doesn't break out on this entry edge over here. So let's do that. Okay, I'm just going to stop there, just so I can show you guys. I've literally gone about 5 mil deep on there, so it's going to take a few passes. It's going to be a bit annoying, but ultimately that's going to give you the cleanest cut, and it's going to put less strain on your router as well, and that cutter. You don't want that cutter slipping. Okay, so that's it. So you can see that our piece has now dropped away and hit the floor. But before I unset any of this or take this away, what I want to do is actually bring the router back into the start position and just do one final sweep through there. Don't adjust the jig at all, just one final sweep, just to make sure there's no lumps and bumps or any nasty bits that's going to hold your 2 bits of worktop apart. It's worth it just for them couple of seconds just to run that router through. Okay guys, and there you can see we've got a lovely clean cut through there. No lumpy bits, no jumpy bits in there at all, so that's nice and clean. Now I would normally now do my worktop bolts in there. If you haven't seen the video, I'll link it up here and in the description. I've done a whole video on how to do the bolts, so go and check that one out. But then what we're going to do now is take this back in, and we're going to turn our attention to doing the male part of the worktop that joins up with this. So yeah, like I said, up here for the worktop bolt video, or down in the description. Okay, so now we've got this bit of worktop back in place. You can see that I've put the bolt holes in there. Yet again, if you want to know how to do that, there's a video up in this corner here, or this one. Can't remember which one. So this is going to be our bit of worktop that's going to join into here. But as you can see, we haven't got a join on here yet. We need to put a mason's mitre coming back across here. So I'm going to show you now how to set the jig up, and then I'm going to take it outside and route that. Okay, so if you can imagine, this is the edge that butts up against that one. So this bit of worktop will turn round and go in there. So that's the edge we want to work on. Yet again, on my jig, but you're going to need to check this on your jig. I can only put mine up one way, but you'll have to put yours up that way. So if our router cutter's going on in this direction here, all the breakout's going to be on that side, so it's not going to break this nice edge that we've got down here. So what you want to look for is you want to look for the 2 holes with the M next to it, and that's for our mount section, because this one's going into that one. And then we want to put our 2 pegs in there. Yet again, you shouldn't need to use a hammer for yours, but I do. Now this is where it's tricky with this, because you've got a relatively small reference point to work to on here. So I'd recommend referencing to your 2 pegs, but then actually putting a nice square on here to check that is, because you might think it's square, but it might just throw out ever so slightly. Now when we cut this out, We don't want to be cutting in the middle of our worktop. There's no point. It's going to put extra strain on our router that we don't need to be doing. Now, between the 30mm guide bushing and the side of your router cutter, it's a 9mm offset. So I normally just put 2 marks at about 10mm, so it makes sure that we're taking a continuous cut right the way across there and taking this front part out. So I'm going to take this outside, do that mark, do that cut, which I'll show you doing. But it's pretty much the same as the other one, so we're just going to take it nice and slow in 5mm, in about 5 passes, and then 1 final pass right the way through to finish off with. So just remember, mark back about 10mm here, and it just means that you're going to be taking a cut right the way down, but it means that you don't have to take a big chunk out of the worktop. So basically a clean up cut through there. Okay, so same as the other side, nice and easily, we're going to take this in 5 passes just to make sure that we're not putting too much strain on the router, and just so we give it a nice clean cut. Let's do it. Okay, so that's all our passes done. We're just going to take that final clean up pass nice and slow just to make sure we're all cleaned up. Let's do it. Okay, so that's our worktop all done, all jointed up. So we're actually going to go ahead and put it together now. So if I get this in place, I'll bring you guys over and show you. Now it looks a bit gappy now, but when we get the bolts and all that in, set in, that's going to look lovely. Now, it's up to you what you put in your joints. I use silicone on mine. I find that it holds perfectly well, really, really good. If I show you over here, this is a silicone joint here, and there's no colour fill in that at all. So that's what I like to use in my joints. I've been doing that for about 17 years now, something like that. And I've never had one fail on me, so I carry on doing that. Some guys like to use colour fill, some like to use PVA. It's up to you, your discretion what you want to use. I put silicone in mine, so yeah. But let me know in the comments what you like to use on yours, if you use something different or whatever you use. But basically, in a nutshell, what we're going to do now is bolt up below. I'm not going to show you too much of the bolting, because yet again, in the how to do worktop bolt videos, I'll go into a lot of detail about that there, so you can check that. But I am going to show you, I mean, these are actually sitting lovely and flush, but I'm going to show you how to get these nice and flush as you're doing the bolts up. So let's crack on with that. Okay, so what we've done is we've got them bolts pretty much done up. They're kind of nipped tight, so it's just pulled that joint together. But what you can feel, I'll run my finger along here, you can feel that this worktop's sitting about 0.5 millimetre higher than this bit of worktop here. So you can either use a rubber mallet, or I like to use a little block of wood and my hammer. You don't want to hit this with your hammer for obvious reasons. You're going to put a whacking great big hole in your worktop. And just gently go along and firmly knock this into place, and then we can go along and tighten that up all the way. So just feel your way along where the high points are, and give that a tap. And there we have it. That's now sitting lovely and flush. Now I'm going to tighten them bolts up all the way. This might move again, so you'll need to tighten it up, come back up, check it, tighten it again. But ultimately that's sitting really, really nice. But we'll get them bolts done up all the rest of the way, and then we'll show you what it looks like. And there we have it, guys. Look at that lovely, clean mason's mitre. And there you have it, guys. That's how to cut mason's mitres on worktops. Now, like I said, there is another video on how to do the bolt holes. There's another video that I did about a year ago on how to do square edge worktops, so you can check those out. I'll link them up here and down there and everywhere and in the descriptions and everything. I'm going to be doing videos on how to finish these worktops as well. We've got upstands going on here, so make sure you check out for them videos. I'll probably link it here somewhere or something like that. I'm going to do the sink cut out, so there'll be a video on that. But yeah, guys, any questions whatsoever you got on this, hit me in the comments down below, and then I'm going to leave you to watch the next one now. Cheers.